Hello and Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Medical Talk. Today we have with us Dr. Hasnain. Dr. Hasnain is a resident in dermatology in Lahore, and he is also the author of a very famous book, Come What May. It has received recognition worldwide and in Pakistan. So we are very honored to have him here with us today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Anusha. That's a wonderful introduction.
Thank you. We usually start by talking about what your early life was like, where were you born and raised, and what was your early education like?
All right, so I was born in Falcode, and I was raised in Falcode as well. I joined CJM, Conrad Houston Mary, which was one of the best schools in Falcode, and then I later moved on to the city school. And yeah, pretty much like that. I think I was very active in my extracurricular activities and co-curricular activities, and I would take part in everything that was there under the sun. So, yes. But the main part was that my parents really just focused that I needed to be good at academics to do everything else. So the first priority was always academics. Yeah. So there is that. So yeah, and they wanted me to become a doctor. So I had to focus externally on studying, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Then I moved to Lahore eventually for my med school.
How did you decide to do medicine? Was it because your parents wanted you to pursue medicine, or was it some other reason?
I think I kind of gave a hint to the first question. Yeah. My parents wanted me to do it. If I'm
yeah.
I wasn't completely coerced into it. So there's a difference, right? They didn't really push me into it, but there was this schematic way of things happening, you know? They kind of inculcated this love of medicine in me. And even if I don't call it love, I just knew that I had to become a doctor. So I'll tell you what, I was doing my O-levels. I was in my O1, and they switched me from O-levels to Matric just because, you know, there was a myth, which kind of wasn't a myth. It was true back in the day, that O-level students do not get into public sector medical colleges. So I kid you not, they moved me, they took me out of my O-level system and they dropped me in Matric, and I had to do it.
Yeah.
So I had to work so hard in my pre-med years to kind of, you know, the system was totally different. Matric, it was a sharp contrast from O-levels and everything. So yeah, but I knew that I had to become a doctor, and eventually I did end up topping the board. I had a second position in boys in Matric. So it kind of panned out well for me, but it was their decision, if I'm 100% honest.
Yeah, I understand that. It makes sense. I think they created that path for you and led you towards that degree. So that's
yeah.
So what was the shift like? Because I feel like in Punjab, there is a lot of difference when it comes to Matric and O-levels, because getting into a public sector university on merit is very difficult if you're coming from an A-levels background because of the equivalence. So what was that shift like? How did you adjust to that?
To be honest, now, if we talk about the students now, as I see a lot of house officers coming in the hospital, and most of them have actually taken OA levels instead of Matric. So I can tell that the equivalent system is a little better now. But back in my day, it used to be the thing, you know, that if you do OA levels, you're never going to end up in a good medical college in Pakistan. You'd probably have to end up paying for a private medical college, or you'd have to sponsor yourself to a country abroad. And not even the good countries, Kazakhstan or China or stuff like that, right? So I did not luckily have to go through the system of equivalence because I did Matric, as I've already mentioned. Tell you what, the O-level system kind of was based on logic and creative writing. And I really had that part of me, you know, because Matric was kind of, you know, 2 + 2 is 4, and that's it. Not really. So it was kind of a stark difference from what I was doing earlier. But I mean, we've moved on. It's history now.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of students face this problem whenever they shift from the O-level system to the Matric system, because there is a lot of difference when it comes to understanding and the way things are taught. So I think a lot of people face
Definitely. Definitely.
Why did you decide to stay back in Pakistan? Because in Pakistan, the current trend, when you see in medical schools, most of the graduates, they either go to the US or the UK. Why did you stay back in Pakistan?
Okay, I'd be lying if I say I didn't really think about moving abroad. I did. I was in my final year of MBBS, and I was taking my medicine war test that week. When I took my IELTS exam, I passed it. It was actually for an elective that I had to do in King's College London at that time. But because I had that at IELTS, I booked my PLAB exam in my house job. And then it led to PLAB 2 and all of that. But it was actually when I went for my PLAB 2, when I realized, I actually really thought about it at that particular time, that do I really want to do this? Or am I just doing it expect of me, you know? Yeah. That there is this constant expectation from people that, अच्छा, ये लड़का जो है, ये तो, you know, ये तो अच्छा है, ये अच्छा कर रहा है, सब कुछ, तो ये तो बाहर जाएगा.
Yeah.
मतलब, the distinction holder, he's doing well, he can talk well, he's going to go to either US or UK. So I actually really just thought about all of it. वहाँ जाकर एक तो COVID आ गया, and I was stranded. So I had a lot of time to myself to think about all of these things. So I sat down and I thought about it. And eventually I realized that no, it wasn't my calling. It may work for other people, but it wasn't my calling. For me, and it may not work for other people, as I've mentioned, but a lot of things revolved around my being here. And I'm not just saying that emotionally, but also the very sense of giving back to the people who've made me. You know, by the grace of Allah, I've been a scholarship student through and through. Yeah. And I have, even though a lot of people don't like to agree to it, but I have studied on government expense, right? If you are a scholarship student, then you have. Then I think there is some sort of responsibility that is on our shoulders to give back. Yeah. And the amount of happiness, and I kid you not, hand over heart, the amount of happiness that I feel here while serving my people, I cannot even imagine कि मैं अंग्रेजों को ये करते हुए मुझे खुशी, अपने घर से दूर रह के, अपने पेरेंट्स से दूर रह के, अंग्रेजों को ये सारी चीजें करते हुए मुझे खुशी होती कि नहीं, you know? Because these people really do make me happy, all these people, especially because I work at a government hospital. So there's a lot of interaction between myself and people of all sorts, in different backgrounds. So एक sense of satisfaction है जो हर वक्त रहती है, हर वक्त, 24/7. There is. Having said that, दूसरा reason ये है that I wanted to do dermatology. And I was just sure about it that I had to practice dermatology. And dermatology in the UK takes you a minimum of 8 to 9 to 10 years. Yeah. मेरा दिमाग कहीं और जा चुका होगा, because the sort of person that I am, I keep moving from one thing to another. So I like hold on to something. So I came back and I took my FCPS exam. It wasn't planned at all. You know what? My sister, who's also a doctor, she's an oncologist. So when I was doing my house job, I remember I bought these books for FCPS and MD exam in Pakistan. And then she took the book away. She came to my place and she took that book away. She's like, you're not going to do this. I'm 100% sure you're not going to do this. You're not going to go to the same path that I did. She did her FCPS in Pakistan, of course. So she's like, you're not going to do this. So it wasn't planned for me. But when I came back and I told her about all of these things, she was like, okay, maybe this is your true calling. If you want to practice here and you're so adamant about pursuing dermatology, you may as well open a clinic, you know, some years after, and just go for it. And then I did it. And then alhamdulillah, I cleared FCPS, and then I landed top merit, alhamdulillah, and I landed dermatology without reading. So that was good, alhamdulillah. Things kind of went into the right place.
Yeah, I think that's great, that the story that you shared, because a lot of people go through this while they're in med school as well, because there's a lot of peer pressure when it comes to what you want to do after graduation. Because
I swear, exactly.
ज़्यादातर लोग जो हैं वो US या UK जा रहे होते हैं, so there is a pressure that you have to go there because you're a smart kid or a good you have a good position in class. So I think it's important to think about all of the other factors that will matter in the long run as well, like you did. I think that's
very true, very true. And I don't want to force this upon people, because I think at the end of the day, everybody has his own choice and will. And one man's meat is another man's poison, so you can't really force your opinions on other. But मेरी दिल की ख्वाहिश है कि अगर हम सब के क्लास के at least top 10 बच्चे पाकिस्तान में रह जाएं, you know, ताकि I want to see Pakistan flourish. And we complain about the system so much, but that's also because there's evident brain drain. Exactly. Best of the lot goes abroad. That rhymed, but yeah.
That's true. I think a lot of people, if they start staying back and get the right kind of opportunities here as well, I think Pakistan के जितने मसले हैं उनमें से बहुत सारे solve हो जाएंगे.
हो जाएं, बिल्कुल, that's true. It's very true.
So talking about the FCPS exam, what is the process and how did you start preparing for that? What are some of the resources that you used for the exam?
Okay, so it's been 2 years. It almost feels like like an eternity has passed after that. But what I did was, this might not be textbook advice, but I did not really have a lot of time. I was in the UK, right? And I was in the middle of my lab too, which got canceled once and then twice and all of that. So when I came back, I really didn't have a lot of time on my sleeves. It was just 2 months that I had. And I had to really just prioritize, what do I go through? And what I did was that I started off with First Aid, which is the main book that you do, which is kind of the Bible of USMLE, right? And that you also have to do for FCPS. So I did that, but I did my first read and I realized that I wouldn't be able to revise this because there's a lot of syllabus and I don't have a lot of time. So I had to move on to other books. So I did BRS for physiology and pathology, and I did a shit tons of MCQs, a lot of MCQs. And I practiced like all the past 10 years ke sare jitne bhi mujhe exams mile, and not just medicine ke, but gynae ke bhi, because at the end of the day, sab yehi keh rahe the ki FCPS is a very tricky exam. It may not test knowledge, but it you know, kind of it's very tricky. Tricky is the word, because some people take it like 4 or 5 times and can't pass it. Some people take it first time and they pass it without a lot of preparation. So it can go either way. So just do a lot of MCQs to be on the safe side. So I did that. And I also there's a book called Rafiullah. God, I swear by that book. Yeah. By this point of time, people at Rafiullah should start paying me, because I've endorsed that book left, right, and center throughout my residency. Yeah. But that really did magic for me. I did it thrice or maybe 4 times. And I think there was a lot of MCQs that came from that book. So I was lucky. Basically, I'm not going to say that koi rocket science thi hai kya. I was a little lucky. Okay, alhamdulillah. Maybe Allah Ta'ala was paying me back for making that decision of coming to Pakistan. Yeah. And I passed it in first go, alhamdulillah. Which is after 1.5 months of preparation only.
Yeah, that's amazing. Just
not recommended. That's not recommended. Aap log sab 3-4 mahine padhe.
I think you did the PLAB as well, so uski preparation bhi I think carried.
PLAB 1 a little bit, not really, Anusha. To be very honest, it's a little different. It's very different. The question type, the stems, the options, the way they test knowledge, everything was different. FCPS has a lot of cramming.
Is it like the MCAT?
I don't want to think about MCAT. MCAT. It was a little better than MCAT for me. I slept in my MCAT. Do you know that? How would you know? I slept in my MCAT.
Wow.
There's an entire horrid story attached to my MCAT, because I was so overworked and so tired. I took a pill before my exam. Not like a drug, like a banned drug or something, laxant, because I'm tachycardic and I also have anxiety issues. So I think I took 2 of those. I still kept studying for my MCAT the night before my exam, and then I sat in my exam, and then 1.5 hours in, I slept. And when I woke up, there were like 20 minutes remaining. So that's really bad. I don't want to think about it. But alhamdulillah, I cleared my MCAT as well. Allah ka shukr. I don't know how though, my luck. But if you compare the 2 exams, FCPS was a lot better. A lot better. I didn't sleep.
I think everyone has a bad story for the MCAT exam, but yours is just really scary.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of ended well for me, because Allah ko tars aa gaya कि इस बेचारे ने इतनी मेहनत की हुई है, metric किया है, O level से change करके. But then I went to, because I had a position in board, I went to GCU. I got selected in a government college. Or I don't know if you know this, but it's kind of the best college for boys, pre-med, FSC. And I went there, then I came back because I decided I was too young to not be around my family, which was a good decision, a wise decision, because I was just 14, I think 14 or 15. और फिर मेरे घर में बहुत सारा मतलब I used to go to college and then also do academies and all of that. अल्लाह मियाँ को बस यही तरस आ गया, वरना MCAT में मेरे कोई हालात नहीं थे. मैंने जो किया एग्जाम में उसके बाद मेरा दाखिला होना नहीं चाहिए था.
No, but I think you studied, so Allah Ta'ala ने वो compensate कर दिया जो सारी पढ़ाई.
I think so. Yeah. I think so. Doesn't go wasted, you know. Hard work doesn't go wasted. Yeah. That's what they say.
Yeah. So you've also done a bachelor's in English, and I think that's very interesting. I've read that you did it alongside your MBBS, or
I did. No, I did it alongside my MBBS. I think I was in my I registered for it back in third year. Yeah. Third year, and then I did it when I was in fourth year. Yeah, I took the exam somewhere in my fourth year. And it's not a very fancy program, to be honest. I didn't do it from any prestigious university abroad. I just did it from PU, Punjab University. But I wanted to add to my resume, you know, and I wanted to get an additional degree. I found out that we could do it, so I did it.
Yeah.
So I took that exam, and then it worked for me. Yeah.
So why did you decide to do that degree?
Why did I decide to do that degree? I don't know, because मुझे चुल होती है कुछ ना कुछ करने की. No, really, I just you know, languages were a really important part of what I was. I think about it in retrospect, I think, because उस वक्त तो बस एक opportunity थी और कर ली. But as you can see, मैंने house job में फिर book भी लिखी and all of that. So I think Allah Ta'ala को कहीं ना कहीं पता था that this is his forte, he wants to do this. I didn't really think that through, to be very honest. That why am I going to do this? Yes, kya fayda hoga? I didn't do any of it at that time, but luckily I did eventually. कर लिया और वो अब मुझे लगता है कि I would totally recommend. You don't have to take a lot of exams for that. You just have to take an English exam, and then if you're doing all of those other subjects in your MBBS, which we did in Punjab, I don't know if you guys do it in Sindh or not. तो फिर वो आपको degree मिल जाती है. And I got my degree. Alhamdulillah.
That's great. I think it was a very good decision because you wrote a book eventually using all of that knowledge.
No, I did not use that knowledge from my book. No. Okay. So, really tricky, I think. Nothing that I learned during my bachelor's program, that bachelor's in English program, none of it is used while writing this book. This book was, long overdue.
Yeah.
And I think it was just, this book is like a journal. I don't know if you've read it or not. I'll send you a copy if you haven't. But this book is like a journal. So I don't think anything has to do with the bachelor's degree that I acquired during my med school.
That's interesting because when you think about it, ऐसा लगता है कि वो bachelor's की degree would have contributed to a lot to what you wrote.
हाँ, उसकी एक वजह ये भी है ना, क्योंकि जो मैंने book लिखी थी, वो मैंने लिखी. I always say this, that Come With Me was a gift to myself. I had to let it out because there was a side of me that was constantly being overshadowed because of what I was doing as a doctor, right? I was working 24/7, इतने ज़्यादा calls का जो schedule होता है. उसके बाद मुझे लग रहा था कि ये वाली जो creative side है, और वो बहुत पहले से ही suppress होना शुरू हो गई थी, you know? Back when my parents took me out from O-levels and pushed me to med. तब से तो वो सारी चीजें जो थी ना कहीं ना कहीं मतलब Come With Me के लिए honestly I did a little bit of fresh writing, but a lot of it came from my journals. I went back to my journals of 2008, 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Then I took, you know, bits and blobs out of all of those journals and then assembled a book out of it. But हुआ ये कि जो book आई वो eventually, because it became a part of the syllabus in Division Public School, it became part of the curriculum, mandatory curriculum. तो फिर वो ऐसा लगता है कि अच्छा आपने bachelor's किया, फिर आपने बच्चों की किताब लिखी, वो बच्चों की किताब नहीं थी. And a lot of people don't know this. For 1 year, I was being contacted by the principal of Division Public School, and I was like, no, I totally wimped out, and I talked about this with my family. और उन्होंने कहा you should do this is an opportunity, करो, ये बहुत अच्छी बात है कि पाकिस्तान, because अमेरिका की बेस्ट सेलिंग लिस्ट में थी, अमेरिका में अवेलेबल भी थी, हर जगह पूरी दुनिया में अवेलेबल थी, पाकिस्तान में इतनी अवेलेबल नहीं थी बुक, and a lot of people didn't know about it, right? Because local market में नहीं थी. और हमने मुझे कहा कि बहुत अच्छा तरीका है. I was scared, Anushe, I kid you not, I was so scared कि मेरी ये सारी ये जो मतलब कहानियां हैं या जो poems हैं and all of those sufferings and windings and unwindings and all that, क्लास 8 के बच्चे खोलेंगे और फिर टीचर उनको पढ़ाएंगी और फिर वो उसकी ट्रांसलेशन करेंगे और उसके बाद they'll take different connotations और पता नहीं क्या होगा यानी, और मेरा तो 3 कर देंगे. तो वो मेरा I did not really want that. I stalled them for a year. I kid you. और फिर ये था कि इंग्लैंड जाने से पहले my family or my friend, I think one of my really good friends, उसने मुझे कसम दी थी कि अच्छा यार एक कसम है काम कर दो, कि मैंने कहा जाने से पहले कहता है प्लीज एक कॉन्ट्रैक्ट साइन कर दो अपनी ये बुक वाला इनके साथ. मैंने कहा यार नहीं. और I swear मेरी 6 मार्च की फ्लाइट थी, I remember 3 साल पहले, और मैंने 3rd को शायद ये जाके कॉन्ट्रैक्ट साइन किया उनके साथ, और फिर ये बुक वाला ये हो गया. हर चीज fell into place, मतलब organically, but कोई थिंकिंग या कुछ भी एक स्टेप दूसरे स्टेप से इतना इंटरलिंक्ड नहीं था करते हुए.
Yeah, I think it was meant to be because you mentioned that you had a creative side to yourself that was being suppressed. Now that you're working in a government setup, as you mentioned, Pakistan mein obviously there are a lot of problems जो healthcare system के साथ होते हैं, and we talk about them a lot. But what are some of the problems that you have seen जो बहुत ज़्यादा prevalent हैं, and how do you think we can manage all of those things?
Okay. So there's a lot of problems. I think on grassroots level अगर आप शुरू करें, there's an avalanche of problems.
Yeah.
सबसे बड़ी प्रॉब्लम जो है ना मुझे लगती है वो एज ए नेशन भी है और वो फिर इट ट्रिकल्स डाउन टू द हेल्थ केयर सिस्टम एज वेल. वी आर वेरी कीन ऑन picking the problem out, but we do not want to think about it. Responsibility, especially when you're in a government setup, कोई responsibility नहीं देता. आप हैं, आपने अपनी गाड़ी पार्क की है, आपने अपने मेडिसिन वार्ड या जो भी आपका वार्ड है वहां जाते तक आपको 10 डिफरेंट प्रॉब्लम्स नजर आए हैं. पार्किंग का मसला, पार्किंग में गाड़ियां सही पार्क नहीं हुई, किस तरह गलत पार्क हुआ है, लेकिन आपने पार्किंग वाले बंदे को कहा नहीं है कि हाँ गाड़ियां रिमूव कराओ, या आपने वहां कुछ किया नहीं है. जा रहे हैं वर्ड में, आपको लेफ्ट राइट हर जगह से यू सीन पीपल लिटरिंग ऑल द एरिया, ऑल द मेन रिसेप्शन. आपको नजर आ रहा है, आप कर्ज कर रहे हैं, आप कुछ कर नहीं रहे उसके लिए. आप वो हैं, आप सिस्टम देख रहे हैं चीजों का, आपको प्रॉब्लम्स नजर आ रही हैं कि पेशेंट्स की लैब रिपोर्ट्स नहीं आ रही. कल आपने टेस्ट भेजे थे, आज वापस नहीं आए, बट यू नॉट डूइंग एनीथिंग अबाउट इट. आपने क्या किया, वही जो वार्ड बॉय है जो कल रिपोर्ट्स नहीं लेकर आया, उसी को ही कहा खालिद भाई प्लीज रिपोर्ट ले आए, क्यों नहीं आए, आप प्लीज चेक करेंगे. आपने मरीज को लिख कर दे दिया, आपने पेन नहीं दी. Nobody wants to take pain. ये सबसे बड़ा मसला है मुझे लगता है.
Yes.
और आई थिंक अगर सब थोड़ी थोड़ी पेन लेना शुरू कर देना, बिकॉज हमने ओथ लिया हुआ है, a lot of people forget about it कि हमने एक्चुअली ओथ लिया हुआ है पेन लेने का. एम्पैथी जो एक है, it's a big word. It's not just feeling for the patients or feeling for anybody else, it's also feeling as if it were happening to yourself. अपने आप को अंदर उस सारी सिचुएशन में डालें, एज अ पेशेंट भी, at times as नर्सिंग स्टाफ भी, एज वार्ड बॉय भी. तब आपको समझ आती है कि अच्छा उसकी जिंदगी भी कितनी मुश्किल है, आप कैसे हेल्प कर सकते हैं, पेशेंट्स को आप किस तरह कैटर टू कर सकते हैं. आप सारी कैपेसिटीज में अगर खुद सोचें और अपना पार्ट प्ले करें, तो आई थिंक अ लॉट ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स कैन बी रेक्टिफाइड. मुझे मेजर प्रॉब्लम नजर आती है हर लेवल के ऊपर. पीपल डोंट टेक रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. दे आर वेरी कीन ऑन पिकिंग ऑन गवर्नमेंट और पिकिंग ऑन systems, but they don't realize they're an important part of the system themselves, and they can bring about change if they want to.
That's a very good point. I feel like हमारी society में this is a problem that a lot of people will pick out कि ये मसला है, ये मसला है, ये मसला है, but हम क्या करें मसले के बारे में, वो कोई बात नहीं करता है. So I think
and we don't really expect अनुषे कि हमारे लेवल के ऊपर, जैसे you and I both are young, ऐसे नहीं है कि हम solutions निकाल कर दे देंगे, but at least brainstorm तो कर सकते हैं ना. We need to realize कि हर एज के अंदर हमें ability दी हुई है. जो ability, जो agility अभी हमारे पास है, to actually make things happen, because we are in our 20s, alhamdulillah. वो even जो लोग अथॉरिटी में हैं उनके पास भी नहीं है. So if we work in cahoots with all of those people and then we brainstorm together, तो फिर divide करके अपने responsibilities, we can bring about a change. But it's a long shot.
Yeah, I feel like communicate करना भी बहुत important होता है. अगर कोई problem नजर आ रही है, for example, if it's the administration of a university, go and talk to them. आप ये मसला हो रहा है, ये इसका solution हमारे पास है, आप हमें बताएं. Very respectful manner.
बिल्कुल. I kid you not, अभी जो है, जैसे अगर आप मेरी ही पर्सनली बात करें, there are 4 applications जो डीनडी में गई हैं मेरी तरफ से. और अब ये होता है कि everybody who knows me in the hospital, they come to my ward, और अभी मैं रोटेशन पे हूँ हालांकि, और वो मेरी रोटेशन जहाँ हो रही है वहां आ जाते हैं कि ये मसला आया है, प्लीज एप्लीकेशन लिख दो और हमारे साथ चलो लेके. तो आई बिकम दैट एप्लीकेशन गाय इन द हॉस्पिटल. लेकिन वो ये है कि कहीं तो आपको स्टेप लेना है ना. एट टाइम्स हम नोटिफाई ही नहीं करते, बिकॉज हर बंदे का डिफरेंट लेवल के ऊपर डिफरेंट परसेप्शन होता है. उनको चीजें नजर ही नहीं आ रही होती हैं, बिकॉज दे आर सराउंडेड बाय डिफरेंट सेट ऑफ पीपल एंड डिफरेंट सेट ऑफ प्रॉब्लम्स. तो जरूरी है कि आप उनको बताएं जाकर हायर अप्स को कि ये प्रॉब्लम्स हैं, ये लोग इसको सफर कर रहे हैं इन प्रॉब्लम से, और ये हमारे प्रपोज सॉल्यूशंस हैं. तो आप प्लीज इसके लिए, बिकॉज यू कैन. बहुत जरूरी है. जैसे हेल्थ कार्ड वाला भी जो था, व्हाट हैपेंड वाज दिस केयर, द हेल्थ कार्ड वाज सडनली अबैंडन्ड. और जब गवर्नमेंट हो रही थी, सारी पार्लियामेंट्री वोटिंग होनी थी, तो उस टाइम पर हॉस्पिटल्स को ऐसा लगा कि उनकी अकाउंटेबिलिटी तो नहीं होगी अब, तो अब तो वो कार्ड बंद कर सकते हैं, अपनी मनमानियां कर सकते हैं. तो दैट स्टार्टेड हैपनिंग. और फिर ये हुआ कि हमने, मतलब आई रोट अबाउट इट ऑन Instagram, बिकॉज आई डिडंट नो व्हाट टू डू अबाउट इट. एंड देन एक मास मूवमेंट बन गई, और वो आवाज सोचें आपकी तो हमारे न्यूज चैनल्स तो हैं, एक्सप्रेस ट्रिब्यून, संडे टाइम्स, जियो, but it actually reached BBC World. आप सोचें तो if you really think about making a change, you can start it just by doing it yourself.
Yeah, I saw that post.
कि हेल्थ कार्ड रिसर्जेंट हो गया, आपको पता है? उन्होंने 1500 हॉस्पिटल्स में नोटिफिकेशन भेजा और उन्होंने कहा कि मॉनिटरिंग होगी और फिर दोबारा हेल्थ कार्ड जो था वो रिसर्जेंट हुआ.
That's one thing that I feel like a lot of people are confused about is I know some of my friends who are very interested in writing and they want to write their own books, but they don't understand how to publish a book. Uska kya process hota hai, how to publish a book?
Okay. So there are different procedures, ठीक है? एक तो होती है ट्रेडिशनल पब्लिशिंग और एक होती है आपकी इंडिपेंडेंट. पहली दफा पब्लिश किया था तो आई पब्लिश्ड विद Amazon Publishers, KDP, which was independent publishing, because मुझे था कि बुक एक आएगी ना, लोगों को बताना पड़ेगा ज्यादा. आई हैड टू मेक अ वेरी स्मॉल टीम. 3 लोग थे उस टीम के अंदर that I hired. एक प्रूफ रीडर और एक एडिटिंग करता था, लेआउट एडिटर, एंड द थर्ड वन वाज मी माइसेल्फ, जिसने किताब लिखी थी. एंड देन देयर वाज अ स्मॉल टीम इन द US जो वहां से उसको देख रही थी. So there wasn't a lot of money involved from my end, but at the same time, I wasn't being given money to write that book. So it was kind of independent publishing, no profit, no loss thing. Until eventually the book started making money, जब वो बिकना शुरू हुई, alhamdulillah. But that is one way to go about it. The other is that आप अपने जो manuscripts हैं वो लिखकर भेजते हैं publishers को, and then you hear back from them, which is really rare. बहुत कम है पाकिस्तान में ऐसे आप हो, especially because मेरे पास इतना टाइम ही नहीं था कि मैं hundreds of agents के थ्रू manuscripts जो है वो भेजूं. और मुझे लगता था कि अगर मैंने tedious process को शुरू कर दिया ना कहीं, तो फिर मैं I will leave, मैं दरमियान में कहीं छोड़ दूंगा और वापस फिर वापस मेडिसिन पे ही आ जाऊंगा. I'm glad I took that path. However, दोबारा पब्लिश हुई पाकिस्तान से, तो then of course I got paid for it, but that's different because मेरी बुक डील थी और वो पूरा सब कुछ यहाँ से. एक चीज जो I would like to recommend कि just because it's not going through a lot of checks and balance, मतलब इतना ज़्यादा क्योंकि थोड़ा सा it's relatively easier जो process है, तो I would recommend कि आप personally जो है एक team hire ज़रूर करें. I had 2 proofreaders I think, और एक layout editor था जो हर चीज़ ये देखता था और वो करता था, ताकि जो product eventually जा रहा है और अगर Amazon के end पे वो इतनी ज़्यादा editing नहीं भी कर रहे या अगर देख भी नहीं रहे ज़्यादा, तो फिर ये ना हो कि आप एक substandard book जो है वो publish कर दें, बस इसी बात पे खुश हो जाएं कि आपका नाम एक book पे आ गया. तो while I recommend this pathway, I also would recommend कि एक दफा इसको जरा अपनी बुक को खुद scrutinize भी करें और थोड़ी सी मेहनत के भेजें, और वहां वाली टीम भी एक एडिटोरियल की हायर करें, ताकि थोड़ा ट्रेडिशनल पब्लिशिंग वाली फील आए ना. वरना तो ऐसा है कि आपने फोटोकॉपी से जाके कुछ प्रिंट करवा दिया.
Yeah, that makes sense. So now that you're a resident, how do you see medicine in the next 20-30 years in Pakistan?
Whoa. I actually can't say much, in the last 10 years, हम इसी तरह predict करते हैं ना, stats निकाल कर ये थी तो अब आगे ये होगा. I don't think that there's a lot that has happened in the last 10 years, to be very, जो मैं कहूँ कि बहुत drastically changes आएंगे. ना ही कोई ऐसी movement हुई है that is bringing back all our wonderfully talented graduates back to Pakistan. I mean, I'm an anomaly and I'm not as wonderful either, but जो बाकी सारे लोग जो इतने talented लोग हैं जो बाहर गए हैं, कोई ऐसे programs ही नहीं है कि आप, और कोई आपने उनको incentives नहीं दिया, कोई job opportunities ऐसी नहीं है कि people want to stay. Doctors के लिए अगर friendly environment बनाएंगे, starting from their pays to yearly incentives to guiding them about the right practice, how to go about it, बेसिक्स पे जरा ध्यान देंगे, एम्पैथी पे और चीज, और थोड़े से आवर्स कैप करेंगे. इलीगल इन अदर पार्ट्स ऑफ द वर्ल्ड इफ यू वर्किंग 100 hours a day and you're getting paid peanuts literally. तो कौन रहना चाहेगा या क्या इसका फ्यूचर है? आई डोंट नो. तो अभी भी जब मुझसे लोग पूछते हैं कि यू हैव मेड दिस डिसीजन, तो डू यू वाउच फॉर इट और डू यू रिकमेंड इट, आई एम लाइक, आई डोंट नो रियली, इट वर्कड फॉर मी बिकॉज़ आई एम mad. I'm also very patriotic and I'm also deeply in love with my friends and my family in Pakistan and I want to give back to the people. But will it work for you? No. अगर आप constantly अपनी सारी खुशियां जो हैं उसको monetize करते हैं, तो it will. कहीं ना कहीं money is a really important factor, right, in every person's life. और ये एक part and parcel है job का, that you're getting paid for it. तो थोड़ा government would need to work on it. Doctors के लिए थोड़ी सी policies friendly बनाएं, और बाद things can get better. Move is never easy. कोई हर कोई तो खैर नहीं, lot of people वो अपने दिल पे पत्थर रख कर जाते हैं for a life, right? Nobody wants to go out of their homeland and leave their homes and friends and family and everybody पीछे, but they do it for a better life.
Yeah.
तो हमारी गवर्नमेंट या हमारा सिस्टम हमें यहाँ फराहम कर दे तो लोग बाहर नहीं जाएंगे. So there's that.
I think that brings us to the end of our conversation. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a very insightful conversation, and I hope that we can have you again on the podcast.
Thank you very much, Anusha, for having me. Pleasure was all mine. मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा. I felt like मैंने अपने 10 साल जो है ना, relived all of that. और मैंने कभी बैठ के इस तरह सोचा नहीं है इतने कम टाइम के अंदर सारी चीजों के बारे में. So I had a lot of fun too. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.